don't know.
I don't know if they're going to win this game.
Why do you say that?
I'm nervous because I don't know who we have in the bullpen.
Nobody. Welcome back. This is episode 132 of the NYYST Podcast, presented to you by Baseballism.com. I am your host, Christian. As always, joined by my co-host, Chris.
You.
And he's not here.
No guy Rye.
No show Rye.
It's great.
So, I mean, Ryan decided that, it's a holiday weekend, so he was going to just not.
It's like at work when you're performing well, the team's performing well. You feel more comfortable taking days off. I said it in our upcoming interview with Joe Rivera that, or right after it, that we gave him a couple compliments last week or 2 weeks ago. The Yankees are winning, and now he's just not here. So
yeah, a little Friday night recording here. We're actually watching a Yankee game right now. It's 4-4 in the top of the 10th. As you'll hear throughout the interview with Joe Rivera, we stopped to
had a couple big moments. We had a Hicksy pinch hit home run.
React to the game a little bit. But Joe Rivera spent about an hour with us, as he always does. Joe's very generous with his time. Comes on, breaks down not only the Yankees, but the rest of Major League Baseball for us. So we thank Joe for hopping on here. And, as we approach the All-Star break here, it's kind of crazy that, I mean, what more can you say? The Yankees came back from London. Tuesday, they were a little flat. They lost the game, but then, they put back-to-back wins together, and it's just...
Yeah, but you know what? They didn't get blown out Tuesday. They were still competitive all game.
And it was probably a game they should have won. They had, they had their bullpen in there, and they couldn't. But you know what? It happens. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
But they came back. They put back-to-back wins together. They won Wednesday night. They won yesterday. I mean... I don't know if they weren't playing in the dome that Gary Sanchez's ball would have ever landed.
Probably not. That home run was unreal. And I got to say, Joe's always a great guest to have on, but when it's like beginning of the year, mid-season recap, which is really going around the league, what we did in the interview, he's great because he covers everyone. So
yeah, I mean, great job as always by Joe Rivera. You'll hear that interview momentarily here. I mean, we touch on things like DJ LeMahieu. I mean, the guy is an absolute, I have not heard a more apropos nickname. Guardy's going to beat that out.
He's
there
safe.
And get on.
He's safe. He broke his wrist probably, but he's safe.
More apropos nickname than the machine, because the guy, he just hits. He just gets hits. And yesterday, the bases are loaded, and it was a little curious to me. I was saying, because we were watching the game yesterday together, we were at a barbecue, that with first and second, nobody out, Gardner bunted, and they were setting up the at-bat for Hicks to have a shot with the bases loaded, because if Gardy ended up beating out the bunt there last night, but if things are executed the way you have them in your mind,
LeMahieu's getting walked.
Yeah, Gardner's going to sacrifice himself. They're going to walk LeMahieu, and then Hicks, who I believe is 4 for 44 with the bases loaded in his career. That's what you're doing. You're playing for Hicks to have an at bat with the bases loaded. But Gardner beats it out, and then let
me ask you this:
LeMahieu, go.
Other than machine,
yes.
If you had to describe DJ LeMahieu in one word, what would it be?
I don't know. How do you want to go with that?
I don't know.
He's clutch.
Clutch. Anyone listening or watching on YouTube, if you have Apple Podcasts or iTunes or whatever, head over there. Give us a 5-star rating and review because you love us. And in the review, give me your one word to describe DJ LeMahieu right now.
It cannot be machine. Pick another word.
Another word. I don't even know. Unrealistic. Like his numbers are video game numbers. It's unbelievable.
It really is.
And the whole debate, that was Sanchez's home run pitch right there.
The guy was trying for another one there.
The whole debate with Trout and DJ, I'm not sitting here and saying that DJ's a better player or deserves it more than than Trout does right now if the season were to end. But we go into this in depth a little at the end of our interview with Joe Rivera, that, you know, you have to remove the team element from anything when you're rating MVP. And to me, I get it. I even backed him up on it. But there's got to be a line, right? Because without your team, there are no RBIs and there are no clutch stats. That plays a big part into the MVP voting, because we saw it happen with Altuve over Aaron Judge.
I guess Chapman's fine. He's in the bullpen right now.
Yeah. You know, there still is a team element to it in some sense, because without a team, you don't have stats like RBI, which I would hope are still pretty big stats to that weigh into an MVP vote. You don't have WAR, because if you don't have a team, you don't have replacements and you don't have above average. So it does go, part of what plays into a WAR are the guys in the surrounding you in the league. So there is a team aspect to it. And when you do add that in, I think Trout and DJ become neck and neck. I really do. I think the debate is stupid right now. And I think that Mike Trout's numbers give him the edge regardless. But DJ LeMahieu, you can't poo-poo what he's done this season so far and just say that Trout is the overwhelming best player in the American League.
No, and as I said, you know, we don't want to spoil the interview too much, but as I said with Joe, I don't have an issue with anybody that wants to say that Trout is the MVP because he's the best player in the world. But you can't just dismiss what DJ LeMahieu's meant to the Yankees this year.
No, you can't.
In terms of valuable, it's DJ LeMahieu, but that's, you know, we've seen Alex Rodriguez win an MVP on a last place team.
Sure.
So, you know, what is it really? You know, some years it's valuable and some years it's overall best player. Just how the voters are going to.
Yeah. And just to wrap up my point, part of what makes you such a great player are your surrounding teammates. So it does play a factor into it. Yeah, your team might not be the best in the league. Your team might be under 500 and you could still win MVP. But without them, in some sense, you're not the same player. You can't sit here and say there's not any team aspect when it comes into. So really, when you put it all together, DJ's neck and neck with Mike Trout, in my opinion.
All right, so without any further ado, because it's a nice long interview for you to sink your teeth in, let's go right to our interview with Joe Rivera of the Sporting News. Please follow him on Twitter at Joe Rivera SN.
This interview is brought to you by Baseballism.com. Head to Baseballism.com, use promo code CHASE28 for free shipping, and enjoy this interview with Joe Rivera.
All right, Chris and Christian of the NYYST Podcast on with our good pal Joe Rivera of the Sporting News. You can follow Joe on Twitter at Joe Rivera SN. Joe, do you want me to intro you as something different? Because like I usually go to good pal for you, but like I feel like maybe you've passed that status in life.
You know, what are you going with? Best friend?
The incomparable Joe Rivera, the showstopper Joe Rivera.
If you ever get remarried, Joe, is Joe going to be your best man now? You gonna snub me again?
Are you going to get triggered this time?
Maybe.
Joe, I don't know if you ever heard. If you've ever heard this,
I was just going to say I could break some news for you guys real quick first. If we can go with
I would
news
love
right
it.
Right ahead.
How about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so my sources are telling me I know who the Yankees are going to be taking in the 2038 draft.
I like this
first round pick, and that's a new Stacy brought into this world.
Really?
Wanted to say congratulations to you,
pal.
Chris. I saw the news on Twitter. I'm very happy for you guys, and hoping for that excellent signing bonus money for you and your family. I'm sure that'll all come to fruition.
At least my son right now better get drafted. You know, I need something.
Still hope.
I'm not going to keep throwing a wiffle ball at the kid every hour of the day if he's not going to make something out of it, you know?
Still plenty of hope.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Oh, you got it.
Well,
what's up?
What's going on, man?
You know, just another week of just was at Citi Field twice this week for the Subway Series, and
sorry to hear that.
You know, Yeah, well, cities, it's not all that bad when the traffic isn't bad. But, talk to a lot of Yankee players, a lot of Mets players. They, contrary to popular belief, they all really like the Subway Series. I know that, it's an extra home game for both teams pretty much, depending on where you're playing. But, I think I just want to say real quick that the Twitter hot take saying that only the Mets players care about the Subway Series and Yankee players don't, they're this or that. I think that's wholly untrue. I think you look at both teams and both everybody on both teams, they really get pumped up for this. And that's no exaggeration, getting to defend home turf.
And I don't think that means a lot. I don't think that I doubt, I'm sure there's people out there that do. I don't doubt that the Yankees don't get extra amped for it. I just feel like when the Mets win, it just means more to them, whether they're 20 games under 500 or 10 games over 500. It just seems to mean more to them because I feel like, and I think this is just a given, I feel like the Mets have a lot of catching up to do and a lot more proving to do than the Yankees. And I think that's where I think that's where that perspective comes from.
I don't think that's unreasonable. I think some of that is recency bias just because the Mets are, I don't think they're horrific by any stretch. I think when you look at their team, they should just be better than what they are. When you see their young talent, when you see the way that the pitching is, they've just produced quality pitching. I know that hasn't exactly panned out that well this year, but I don't think that's wholly unfair to bring that up. Maybe it does mean a little bit more. But yeah, I think on both sides, guys, I really do think the players on both sides really care about it. And I think that's the same can be said of any of these intercity rivalries, these crosstown rivalries.
Well, look at that.
Angels, Dodgers, Chicago. I think that all these rivalries that mean a lot to a lot of these teams.
Well, I think there's a first-hand take, so it's nice.
Not that there's never any pressure on the New York Yankees, but I feel like since you're saying that, it kind of does make sense that because in the days of George Steinbrenner, the Yankees were in a no-win situation with the Mets. Because Joe Torre said that was the least enjoyable World Series when they won in 2000 because it was like they
absolutely Steinbrenner made it known. Steinbrenner made it known to those guys that he would not accept losing to the Mets. Then there was pressure on everybody in that series. It was just uncomfortable for everybody. If you read Joe Torre's book, he goes into great detail about it. So. It means a lot, man. I know that recency bias says maybe it means more to the Mets just given their lack of true championship success in recent years. But there make no doubt that both sides really care about it a lot. It does mean a lot to all these guys.
All right, Joe. So we're recording here Friday night. We're actually watching a Yankee game while we talk to you. So the Tanaka is, Tanaka.
Sorry if Tanaka gives up a home run and we scream in your ear.
But we're sitting here after the game completes tonight. The Yankees will have, everybody will have 2 more games before the All-Star break. So we wanted to touch base with you, go around the league a little bit, get a feel for what's going on outside of the Yankee universe, so to speak. We'll start in the National League here and we'll work our way to the Yankees. We got the Los Angeles Dodgers, who currently own the best record in Major League Baseball. They're sitting at 60-29. They have a 13-game lead in the loss column over the Colorado Rockies. So, they can probably put themselves in a rocking chair and they'll be in postseason again. Runners up the past 2 years, they fell short in the World Series. Are they again the class of the National League?
Yeah, I think so, Guy. I really don't think there's much room for debate here either, to be honest. I mean, we saw it coming a few years ago. We even saw it during the Mattingly years, the later Mattingly years, that this was a team that was just built to win. They had young talent coming up then. We see that now. When you get 3 straight walk-offs from 3 rookies a few weeks ago, that's special stuff. That's team of destiny type stuff. It really is. So. You look up and down that rotation. Hyunjin Ryu has had an excellent year and a half. I know he dealt with some injuries last year, but he's been a godsend for them. Walker Buehler got over some early issues early on in the season. I think that their rotation is just very good top to bottom. And the lineup anchored by, probable MVP Cody Bellinger. I mean, he's been excellent for them too. So, Yeah, I think when you look at the way that the NL East teams have kind of underperformed this year and also the NL Central teams, it just feels like everybody's underperforming. But the Dodgers are there. I just don't think when you look at their depth, when you look at their lineup, just top to bottom, I think their Achilles heel is probably the bullpen. They don't really have a lot of arms in there, but the rest of that team is just way too good.
Well, Joe, you go from the NL West, where there's, like Christian said, a 13-game separation in the loss column, to the NL Central, where it's kind of fun to focus on a division that is kind of mediocre throughout. I think they're all within 2 games in the loss column of one another. Seems to be a division that continuously goes back and forth over the last couple of years from what my memory is bringing back to me here. But who do you think comes out of that division this year?
The NL Central, guys, is just, you look at the way that the Cubs, again, have underperformed this year. It's really dazzling to me because they have so much talent top to bottom. I know that the rotation hasn't been good. You look at Yu Darvish, he's been questionable all season. Kyle Hendricks was dealing with some injuries, but he's back now. I thought Milwaukee would be better than this, especially with their lineup. We knew heading into the season that Milwaukee was just going to be a question mark when it came to the rotation. You lose Wade Miley, who, say what you will about Wade Miley, he was pretty good for them last year. And then you don't really make a run at Dallas Keuchel, which would have been perfect for them in that rotation. Even with the bullpen, even with the depth that they have in the lineup, they've underperformed to me too. So I do like the Cubs still, just by default. I just look at their talent. I say they can't be this average for this long. It looked like they were turning a corner a few weeks ago, and it just hasn't really happened. So we'll see if Kimbrel can really lock down the back end of that bullpen. I thought that was a huge signing for them, but the effectiveness of a guy signing midway through a season is still kind of a question mark. We'll see if that works out for them in the long run. So I do like the Cubs still coming out of it, but the rest of that, again, it's the entire National League outside the Dodgers. It's just been ugly. The Phillies, we knew they were a flawed team. The Mets, we knew, looking at the Mets moves on paper before the season, I thought that Van Wagenen did a really good job, but none of them have worked out. So, I still like the Cubs coming out of the Central. I think that they're still, just the talent alone is the best out of any of the teams in that division.
Well, you brought up Brody Van Wagenen, so let's go there next. We've been actually, even though this is the NYY Sports Talk Podcast, not the NYM Sports Talk Podcast, we have talked about the Mets a lot on recent episodes. I just think they've been almost more interesting because, say what you want about the Yankees, and the Jerry Recco on The Fan today, he brought this up. He said they're kind of boring right now because
they're just that good.
They're that good.
They keep winning.
You just know, you just get to a certain point where you just feel like they're going to win. And the
Not
Mets,
boring as a fan, but boring as doing something like this, like a podcast, a radio show.
How many times are you, we're going to talk about it, but how many times are you going to say, oh, how great is, DJ LeMahieu been,
right. It's every episode.
And it's almost, it was like car crash mentality, like watching the Mets bullpen last week. So we've been, bringing that up, and, it's topical. The Yankees just played the Mets, and, you look at the NL East, and, with Washington now sitting at the top of that division, it feels like almost a missed opportunity for the Mets this year, that they could have made some noise in there and been a potential playoff team. But where are they? 8-9 games under 500 right now.
Yeah.
Brody's had a few.
And
Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
It's funny, guys. It's fine. It's funny because the Yankees have won more over the last 40 years, 50 years, right? Since the Mets' existence. But the Mets have won more back pages, whether that's for good or bad.
Yeah.
It seems like there's always, they just have a tradition of stories following and surrounding the team. The 69, the Miracle Mets, they were the worst team in baseball just a few years before that. The 86 Mets, which, well-documented team with all the drug use and drug abuse that was happening there. The 90s years where they were really good, and Bobby Valentine was a character in and of itself, hiding in the dugout with all the disguises, and then you had Wilmer Flores crying on the diamond, thinking he was traded, and then the trade for Cespedes happened. So the Mets have always had these weird stories that have always followed them. They've always been the more dramatic team. I think that's part in why that Mets fans are so fervent, because they're so entertained by their team. I think that a lot of that obviously is heartbreak, but I think a lot of it is entertaining too. So this season is no different. Just to keep going here, this season is no different for them. Brodie Van Wagenen got like 7 or 8 different guys before the season. JD Davis, who's been there, like the lone move that he's made that's really worked out for them. Obviously, the trade for Cano and Diaz. Cano hasn't really been good. Diaz has looked good generally overall, but he hasn't looked like his 2018 self at all. He's blown a few leads. He's blown a few saves this year. Wilson Ramos, now Mets pitchers don't want to pitch to him anymore for whatever reason. Maybe he calls a bad game. Who knows? When you look at all the moves that Van Wagenen made before the season, you said to yourself, these all make sense because it was all depth moves. It was bullpen moves. Jed Lowry was a solid hitter last year, even though he's 35 and he hasn't seen the field this year. It doesn't sound like he's going to see the field this year either. But all of these moves that they made were to shore up the bench or were to shore up the bullpen. And you said to yourself, maybe he knows what he's doing. If this is the window right now with the starting pitching with Syndergaard and DeGrom, then you have to make win now moves, which is why I was okay with everything that they did. But obviously it hasn't worked out in that way. And it's really surprising to see so many things go wrong for them at once. I mean, even with the injury riddled years in the past, this is like the metsiest Mets season that I've seen in recent years. It really is crazy to me to see how many things have gone wrong with them this year in terms of production, in terms of injuries. It's just crazy to watch. Well,
I was going to ask you, because it seems like everything that he's done this year, outside of maybe acquiring JD Davis, it's been like a misstep for him. Jed Lowry hasn't seen the field. Jeurys Familia has been a total disaster. Robinson Cano looks like, he should probably, I would never, advocate doing drugs, but maybe he should, go back
on the juice
because he looks like a shell of his former self. And Edwin Diaz has been pretty much a disaster. His ERA is hovering around 5 right now?
Edwin Diaz looks like Jonathan Holder right now.
So I mean, added and then you can, because we're in the same town, you have the fans that compare. Like the Yankees got DJ LeMahieu, we got Jed Lowry, very comparable signing. Same thing with Adam Ottavino to Jeurys Familia. DJ LeMahieu is in the conversation to be an MVP. Adam Ottavino's pitching to a 1.5 ERA. So you see these things, and out of all this, what was the worst thing that Brodie Van Wagenen did this offseason? Could it be as simple as just taking the job?
Guys, I mean, it's really tough for me because I think, you look back on all those moves now and you say, yeah, hindsight is 2020. How different would this team look if they did have a DJ LeMahieu over a Jed Lowry or an Adam Ottavino over Jeurys Familia? You got to look at all those moves and you say to yourself, maybe Brodie Van Wagenen just had a really bad string of bad luck because, again, those moves made sense. It's not like Familia was really, really bad last year.
And Joe,
after the trade to Oakland, he wanted to come back. And Joe,
I don't mean to cut you off here, but just like you said, on paper, this team should be much better than they are. How do you even blame Brodie fully for this? Because I mean, how can you get a guy like Diaz here and he's pitching the way he is? How is that on the general manager? Because look at the season the guy had last year. Doesn't it go beyond that? Isn't it something more with this organization that they're not getting the most out of their players?
Guys, I don't know if it's the water in Flushing Bay. I don't know if it's the jet fuel coming, the jet streams coming from the planes landing at LaGuardia. I don't know if guys are eating bad Shake Shack before the game. I don't know if Citi Field was built on an Indian burial ground. I don't know. It's like I said, it's when you look at this team top to bottom, nobody has really, that Brodie brought in, has really performed up to what their baseball card dictates. And that's just, it's crazy to me. What is Mickey Callaway supposed to do? And listen, I'm not going to defend Mickey because I think Mickey overall hasn't really done himself any favors. I mean, obviously everybody knows what happened last year with batting out of order, but you look at this team top to bottom, and again, all the guys that Brodie brought in, it's like, what is Mickey supposed to do? I mean, he's playing the guys that he was given, right? And when Familia's coming in and he looked terrible, and then he was hurt for a while, he looked pretty good the other night in his first appearance back against the Yankees. But what's Mickey supposed to do? So again, it really is bizarre to me to see the way that these guys came in and they just haven't performed. Now, when you look at their core, you look at the Michael Conforto and a Pete Alonso, he hit his 29th home run today, and you look at a Jeff McNeil who's like DJ LeMahieu light, and you look at all these guys top to bottom, you say to yourself, man, this actually is a talented team that should be better than what they are. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what it is. It's just, in a nutshell, guys, I think you look at the Mets situation and you say to yourself, this is one of those times where you say players have to perform. I know that you can always blame something on a manager. You can always blame something on a general manager or maybe some moves that didn't make sense. But top to bottom, this is just a team where guys haven't performed. And I think that's as simple as it comes down to.
Well, Joe, if you ever decided to watch this episode on YouTube and see my facial reactions, they're not towards you.
I was going to say the same thing.
I'm rolling my eyes because Nestor Cortez Jr. is warming up in the 7th inning of this game.
Yeah.
So that means somebody's not available for the Yankees tonight.
Yeah. And I'm guessing it's
I
Chapman.
actually asked, I asked Aaron Boone before, I believe it was the second game of the Subway Series this week. I said, Aaron, you guys are top 10 in all of Major League Baseball in innings pitched by the bullpen. How much of that is a concern to you guys? Because listen, you see that the way that bullpens are taxed and used in baseball, especially this year, and guys just aren't performing top to bottom. I think that's something to keep an eye on moving forward, right? I just think that you go to guys for 4 innings, 5 innings almost every night. It's not a good look. It's not the way you want to win moving forward. It's not. I understand that a bullpen like the Yankees have is a weapon, but I do think that there's still a lot of value in guys going out there and getting 7 innings, starting pitchers getting 7 innings, getting 8 innings, trying to give the bullpen a night off. I just think there's so much value in that. And then when you add in the fact that the Yankees are using openers this year too, you have to realize that that's taxing the bullpen as well. So I think that that's something to keep an eye on moving forward for sure. I mean, you hope that nobody's hurt. That's always the case. You hope nobody sets in with a dead arm. But yeah, I think that not to go off on a tangent, but I think that that's something you definitely have to keep an eye on. The way the Yankees use their bullpen moving forward in the second half of the season.
Yeah, and I mean, not to go too much into this, but I think that's why the opener has become so appealing, because it's not like these guys are going to explode on the mound if they pitch into the 6th inning. It's more or less the fact that these managers now have so many stats at their fingertips that they're a little more weary to let these guys go a third time around these lineups. And that's where the opener really becomes effective, because these hitters aren't seeing the same pitcher over and over again. And I think that's where you're seeing so much use out of the Yankee bullpen.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair, Chris. But I also think that when you get a guy like James Paxton, who obviously he's never pitched 200 innings in his career, I think last year he came as closest as he was at 180. He's not going to really give you length, whether it's via injury or what. He also wastes a lot of pitches, so he's not a guy that's going to be a horse. You're kind of hoping Severino comes back and he can be that ace at the top of the rotation that can give you 7 innings strong per game. And then there are guys on the trade market that you say to yourself, maybe a guy like Madison Bumgarner, who historically in his career has always been a workhorse and he's always pitched a lot of innings. So, there are guys out there to be had, but when you look at this Yankee rotation, Jay Happ isn't going to be giving you 7 or 8 innings. CC's definitely not going to be giving you 7 or 8 innings. He's a 5 and fly guy pretty much now. So I definitely think it's a question mark, even with the second or third time through stats. If a guy is nasty, a guy's nasty. That's why you see guys like Justin Verlander. I mean, they're not afraid to use him a third time through because he's just disgusting. Max Scherzer. I mean, good luck saying, Max, just give us 6 innings today. That's all we need.
Right.
Don't worry about a third time through. So I think when you have that ace, when you have that guy that's undoubted at the top of the rotation, that just helps the team so much more than just the stats will allow.
All right. And we'll wrap up the National League here with this last question. I just want to, Christian, I think before you said Washington was atop the division. It's actually Atlanta. Washington's on top of the wild card.
Did I see something wrong today?
No, they're on top of the wild card now, I think, or at least the second slot, but Atlanta's 6 games up, I believe, on Washington.
Yeah, you're right. I had but they're back in the race now.
Yeah, no, they're not. It's not like they're going to be
You're
selling.
right. I was looking at the wild card standings, but so that's.
But that's still a crazy thing because people were talking about them being out of it a week ago, 2 weeks ago. But anyway, Joe, first half NL MVP in your mind right now.
It's Bellinger. I mean, I know that a lot of WAR is kind of looked at, what is it good for? But you look at the WAR number, it's at 6.7
So I should
right
throw
now.
you off the show for that joke.
I'm sorry. And it's not only the fact that it's a terrible joke, but it's been used way more than it should be, but I'm just going to go there for now. But, he's at a 6.7 baseball reference WAR number right now, which is 2 entire wins more than Christian Yelich. And I think that when you have 2 guys that are that close, that good, I mean, it's tough to pick one over the other, but Bellinger he got off to such a historic start. I mean, Yelich is up there with him. He's been ridiculous to the season. And I think what a lot of people don't realize about Bellinger is that he's an elite level defender. I mean, the guy might win a platinum glove this year. He's that good defensively. So not only does he make adjustments, I know that he slumped a little bit in the last month or so, but he's a guy that last year you saw that maybe there was a little too much uppercut in his swing. This year, his swing is a little bit more level. His line drive percentage is way up, so his swing is a little bit more level. Not as much uppercut in the years past. So, I like Bellinger a lot. I just think when you look at the body of work in the first half, he's been way, way too good to not give him the nod, at least at this point.
All right. I think that's pretty unanimous that we all think that Bellinger is probably going to lock that up.
He's a good young
talent. Let's move over to the American League here, and I didn't put this when we sent you the topics, but I should have called this the Minnesota Twins question. Besides the Yankees in Houston, is there a real contender in the American League this year?
Guys, I mean, Baltimore is always lying. I really got to stop making Baltimore Orioles jokes on the podcast, guys. I'm sorry. It's low hanging fruit. It really is. It's unfortunate.
Are they still a Major League Baseball team?
This is why I'm actually for relegation in Major League Baseball. I don't know logistically how that would be possible, but if everybody would not be subjected to the Baltimore Orioles every year, I think that would probably be better for Major League Baseball.
Why don't they do this? Because remember 2 weeks or so ago, there was this stupid idea out here that the Rays were going to play in Tampa and Montreal.
Yeah.
Why don't they send the Orioles to play in that dumpster, the Trop, and actually let a good, exciting team
play in that gorgeous
like the
stadium,
Rays
like
play in Camden Yards. I think everybody wins there.
I think that's a great idea.
I think Tampa would riot if they had any part of the Orioles more than 18 games a season, guys. I really do. I don't think that would be sending anybody. Send the Orioles overseas. Send them to London next year. Maybe the UK family over there will enjoy them a bit more than we will here. But
I heard Meghan Markle is a huge Baltimore Orioles fan.
They'll hit 200 home runs there too.
All right, Joe. So besides
that's the remedy.
Besides the Yankees, Astros, and the Baltimore Orioles, is there another true threat, a contender in the American League this year?
I think the Twins are the one that are going to come up, right? And in a nutshell, the Twins hit home runs. They hit for power. They've been good with that all. Their lineup is legitimate. They've been good all year. Their bullpen, they need help. They definitely need help in the bullpen. And I think their rotation, they need some help too. They need a number 3 guy. I think Jake Odorizzi is having an unbelievable year. I mean, who would have seen this coming? He's a career 4 ERA guy, and he's pitching around a 2.2 ERA this year, which is just unbelievable to me. So, and Berrios, obviously at the top, Jose Berrios has been very good for them too. But I just look at them and I see a lot different from the Indians last year. And I know people are drawing comparisons. Well, the Indians took advantage of a bad division last year, which they did. But the Twins are beating everybody else too. They're a very competitive team, top to bottom. So I don't think that you can thumb your nose at them. I do think that the Twins are a very good team. I don't know if they're championship contending yet. I think that they need some pieces in the bullpen. They need to shore up their pitching a little bit more. But other than that, I think that, the Yankees are probably cream of the crop right now. It's hard to really put anybody ahead of them in the American League. With Houston a few steps behind, they've been slumping lately. Ever since just before that Yankee series, they were dealing with injuries, and and they just the pitching's been a bit rough. But yeah, I think the Twins are probably the only other team outside of the Yankees and the Astros that might be a big threat come October.
Joe, I got to say this, okay? I am a firm believer that the reigning World Series champs deserve the respect until they are no longer World Series champions. But I am so sick.
I mean, that's,
you go. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that I don't think that's unfair.
No,
go ahead, continue.
Because you know what? They deserve it. They had such a dominant year. They're the champs until they're not anymore. But I'm so sick of hearing analysts still say that the Yankees need to watch out for the Red Sox. I'm not saying that they can't sit there and say, look, you can't be complacent. They're still the Boston Red Sox. You can't let them gain ground. You have to continue to bury them. I'm fine with that. But follow it up with, but the Yankees have really dominated this division right now, and they're clearly the better team. Every analyst I hear is talking about how the Yankees still need to watch out for the Red Sox. No, they don't. They don't. They need to continue playing the ball they've been playing, and in turn, they will bury the Red Sox. That is it. That is end of story. I need to know, is this team truly the team that they're going to be all year? Do you see the Red Sox making that spurt where they roll off 10, 12 games in a row and all of a sudden they're back in it? Or do you see them staying a 500 team right now, maybe five games over by the end of the year?
Guys, I mean, we've seen it a few different times this season where they just look like, maybe they're going to turn it on now. Maybe they're going to turn it on, and they do, and they go on little runs, maybe 5 out of 6, 7 out of 8, but then they just revert back to being an average team. So, I said this a lot about the Red Sox last year. Some years are just magical in baseball. It just goes beyond comprehension. I know that there's always going to be stats that back up, a team's success. And we know that the Red Sox were purely contact baseball last year, and they were getting great performances from everybody. And again, I've mentioned this on your podcast a few times, but when Brandon Phillips is coming up in September, a guy that hadn't played baseball all year, and he's hitting game-winning home runs for you, then maybe something's going right. So I think that the Red Sox this year, I think pretty much everybody expected a little bit of regression. I don't think anybody expected an 110-win team again. And to see what they're doing this year, this is more of what I expected them to be, because outside of Chris Sale, who finally turned it around, outside David Price, who's been pretty good, and Eduardo Rodriguez has been pretty good himself, where's the pitching coming from on this team? Rick Porcello has been not good, to say the least. I mean, the guy's getting paid $21 million to be a 5 ERA guy. Their bullpen is in shambles. I don't really, when you look at this team top to bottom, where are you getting the help from? Where are you getting the reinforcements from? And Dave Dombrowski pretty much already emptied that farm system to get all the help for Chris Sale and to get help. And unless they want to move Devers, but that's not going to happen, to get more help. And so I don't really see where the Red Sox or how the Red Sox are really going to turn it on again. There are things that are beyond comprehension in baseball. Maybe everybody just starts hitting at once. Maybe the pitching gets good at once, but that's a lot like the Mets, where everything went wrong. It's kind of hard to expect everything to go right for Boston. I don't see how that happens. They're still a good team, very talented team. I think top to bottom, but I just don't see how they rattle off and they get really hot heading into the second half of the season.
Joe, before we ask you a couple questions about the Yankees here, what was your take of the London series? That wasn't real baseball, was it?
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with playing games in London, guys. I think that, the baseball wasn't good, obviously, overall. I think it was entertaining, but if you're a baseball purist, if you're a guy that watches, 150 games a season and more, you say to yourself, what the hell's going on here? But again, I'm okay with it, because it's 2 games out of the year. You're showcasing it to other parts of the world. I spoke to a lot of my friends who are writers who went overseas to cover the series, and they all had a blast. So it's a little bit of almost a respite for them, a little mini vacation for them, which is cool. The players seem to like it. I do think that there's some logistics things that they could fix instead. I think that
was my big issue with it, was the scheduling. You could have played. I mean, honestly, couldn't they have played this weekend, and then these guys could have had the All-Star break off instead of at least the Yankees got lucky. They came home, and even though they were away games, they were home for a couple of days because they played the Mets. Not that I'll ever take pity on the Red Sox, but they had to go to friggin' Toronto.
It's a joke.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably my biggest thing, guys, because I understand the flight is like taking a flight out west, 5.5, 6 hours, whatever it is, 7-hour flight. But I think it's kind of unfair, even when you give them the few days off before and maybe the day off after, whatever it is. It doesn't seem fair to the players to ask them to go back and readjust their schedule. Again, these guys they're creatures of habit, man. They hit at the same time every day. They eat at the same time every day. They're in a routine. And when you ask them to break routine, to travel across and play even 2 games, that's tough for anybody. So I do like the London series because I'm always for showcasing baseball to more audiences, more widespread audiences. Baseball is actually surprisingly a few years ago when they had the World Baseball Classic, they said that Germany is very, very big into baseball right now. So putting games out there for the UK, I mean, it's an event. Celine Dion is going to sell out everywhere she goes. The Yankees are going to sell out everywhere they go. So I think that it's cool. It's a cool thing, but there's certainly some logistics issues that they can hammer out and they can get right for next season.
No, I get it. And I don't disagree with them trying to grow the game, but Joe, when the Yankees are up 17-6 in the seventh inning, you can't, and you really have to worry about them blowing that lead. That's something that's not baseball at that point. There's something obviously, and guys, even though Purcell is pitching to a high ERA and Tanaka's prone to having his blow up games, when they give up a combined 12 runs and only record 3 outs, to me, that something else is going on there.
Yeah, I mean, they're conspiracy theories, right? And one of the ones that I thought, maybe there was something happening with the mound. Maybe they lowered the mound a little bit. I don't think anybody's really going to notice by the naked eye. Everybody, you heard it from everybody, and you saw it with your own eyes that pitches were left up in the zone all weekend. And I think that when you're asking guys to pitch on a little bit of a lower plane, that's just going to happen. So, man, I don't, it's tough. It's tough for me to really say. I mean, it's, again, for Major League Baseball, it would be a built-in excuse. I have no proof of it. It's pure speculation. I don't want to be irresponsible and say, that's something I know for sure. But there's certainly something weird happening there. I know there's some other theories where, maybe the wind and the park factors were playing into it just a little bit, but
but you know what I thought of with that, Joe?
For sure.
I thought of the whole wind thing, and it's like, what's the wind like right now at the Trop? I mean, it's in a friggin' dome, right? How much could the wind play a factor in that stadium that these guys play in domes?
Yeah.
If I'm going to go with anything, if anything was going on, I'd say it'd have to be something with the mound.
Yeah, and I don't. If you're Major League Baseball, you're a fan of the offense, because I really don't think things like time of game or pace of play really bothers people when they're going over to see an event. Now, if a 17-13 game was happening every weekend or every time that someone went over to the UK, then it's a problem. But if you're Major League Baseball, I don't really think they have that much of a problem with a couple guys showcasing as much power as they were, as many runs as they were. I don't think that they're too upset with that.
Well, a guy that was on a showcase as much as anybody that weekend and just continues to be mind-boggling. They gave the stat after he drove in the go-ahead runs in the game last night. DJ LeMahieu is 9 for 11 with the bases loaded this year, 20 runs batted in. I think he. As of last night, he was hitting .480 with runners in scoring position. These are video game numbers. You couldn't turn MLB The Show on Rookie and hit this well. What has he done? As great as he's been, how much has he transformed this lineup now where you don't hear so much, even though the Yankees strikeout rate is probably, close to what it was last year. You don't even hear people complain about that because of this guy. What has he done to change the lineup in the way that the Yankees offense attacks pitchers?
Guys, there's a few different ways we can go with this, right? I mean, first, I think the number one thing that I think a lot of people are overlooking is how context dependent that runners in scoring position numbers are, right?
Sorry, Joe. Hicksy just hit a game-tying home run in the 8th because he's on the New York Yankees and they don't seem to just give up.
Is he batting 4th again tonight? Because I'll tell you what, when I saw that when I saw that at Citi Field the other day, I was a little bit confused. I mean, the guy hadn't looked good the night before, and then you're batting him cleanup.
Well,
but, whatever gets him out of the funk.
Aaron Boone had the vacation lineup out tonight, and Hicks was one of the guys that was sitting. So they fell behind in the bottom of the 7th, and he let him off and pinch hit to the here in the 8th.
So, yeah, I mean, Hicks is a guy that has to get going for them. I mean, you pay him $80 million, you can't hit 220. So we'll see what he turns into. But back to LeMahieu, guys. I mean, I think the number one thing that people kind of forget is how context-dependent runners and scoring position numbers are. I mean, DJ LeMahieu, he's proven that he's going to hit no matter what. I think that, all the core stuff has gone to bed. Being a Rocky has gone to bed. But the fact that guys are getting on base for him.
Joe, and guess what? There's nobody on base, but he just got a hit. So
yeah, as you said, LeMahieu's going to hit.
Again, he's just going to hit. He's going to hit no matter what. So I think that some of it is, listen, a guy like Mike Trout might not get as many opportunities as LeMahieu does, but LeMahieu certainly cashes in when he gets them. So I think that a lot of credit has to go to Yankee hitters for being able to get on base around him. And obviously a lot of credit has to go to LeMahieu. And I think that's been big for them. But I was actually talking with a friend of mine the other day, guys. He's a big stats guy, and he was explaining to me the idea, I guess, behind contact baseball, how radical that is now. When you look at the way that shifts have kind of neutralized power hitters in recent years, you were able to play bad defenders in shifts for the most part. And a lot of that the defense didn't matter as much when guys were either hitting into the shift or hitting home runs or striking out, right? But when you have a guy like DJ LeMahieu and Crosstown and Jeff McNeil, those guys that are contact hitters are going to expose bad defenses, and they're going to expose shifts, and they're not gonna hit into a shift. They're gonna hit them where they're not. So you're gonna see more of that, and that's kind of the way that the Red Sox won last year. They put bat on ball, right? It's kind of crazy. It's the same thing we've been saying for the last 4 years during the launch angle revolution, that maybe guys should just be making contact, because you never know what happens when you just put a ball in play. So you're seeing more of that now, and LeMahieu's a guy that he's always made contact throughout his career. He just has a swing tailor-made for it. I know he's hit for power this year, but he doesn't sell out for power, which I think some guys have in recent years. So he's certainly opened a lot of eyes this year. Maybe playing with Colorado, people didn't realize how good of a player he actually was. There are some people that think playing away from Colorado actually hurts your stats, instead of it's more of an effect that it hurts your stats than Coors Field actually helps your stats, right, which is pretty radical to me. But we're seeing that too. So yeah, it's all crazy to me. I mean, he's been unbelievable for them. He's certainly been worth every penny, that's for sure. And I know that a lot of teams are kicking themselves right now that they didn't sign him.
Well, Joe, I think there's two guys really in this Yankee lineup right now that changed the dynamic from what they were last year. One of them obviously being the guy we just spoke of, LeMahieu, and the other guy being Gleyber Torres. And I know Gleyber Torres has some surprise pop in his bat that no one really expected, but he's also a guy that's going to put bat on ball and put the ball in play. And I think the two of them together really change the dynamic of this team. One of them in DJ LeMahieu being a shoe-in for the All-Star game. The other that got snubbed out of recognition until who went down with the injury just now?
Brandon Lau.
And now, Gleyber.
Injury replacement to the injury replacement.
Yeah. And, Christian, whether he was joking or not, texted, he said he should tell Major League Baseball he's going to decline their invite. But really, I mean, it's still an honor.
I didn't exactly say that, but, but Joe's on, so we'll keep it clean. Rated G.
There's still at any given time, about 750 active players on rosters. And it's still an honor to be invited at this point. But in your opinion, should he have been elected to the All-Star game right off the bat?
Guys, it's so hard to say. It really is, because you see who got voted in at second base is your boy DJ LeMahieu, right? So is he supplanting DJ? No, he's not. You see who got voted in at shortstop is Jorge Polanco, who up until a few weeks ago was matching Mike Trout step for step when it came to WAR and just overall production this year. So he wasn't going to get voted in at shortstop. And maybe if you were to think about voting him in as a reserve, that would have made a lot of sense as well. But that process it all goes to the commissioner's office, and it goes to player ballots now. So that's not something that the fans could have controlled. And given that the rosters are adjusted in a way that it's always going to be pitching heavy and less position player heavy, I don't really know where you can sneak him in. So I think that when you consider that DJ got in, Jorge Polanco got in, who's just had an overall better year at shortstop, it's tough for me to say that he should have been in. I know that he's had a fantastic year. He's about to surpass his WAR number from last year. So he's obviously been everything that the Yankees could have hoped for in that trade when they sent Chapman over to the Cubs. But it's tough for me to say that he should have been in, because there's so many guys who have deserving cases along with Gleyber.
And look,
but,
Tommy La Stella
he's an all-star now, and I guess
deserving.
that's all that matters.
Tommy La Stella was deserving. I had no issue with that. I think where a lot of people got upset is that when Tommy La Stella broke his leg, they chose Brandon Lau instead of Gleyber Torres. And if you look at the numbers, it probably doesn't compute there.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. And I don't know who else from Tampa got voted in as all-stars, but you also have to keep in mind that all of these teams have to be represented. So I think that's part of it too. But yeah, I mean, listen, Brandon Lau's had a heck of a year too. He's probably going to win Rookie of the Year for the Rays. So it's really tough for me to say who belonged one over the other. Obviously, Gleyber's been hot. Lately, he's been great for the Yankees. It's just, again, there's so many guys who are deserving. It's not like you're not seeing guys get snubbed anymore. Snub is a very, very, if a guy who's hitting 275 with 3 home runs gets in over a guy that's hitting 300 with 15 home runs, then it's a snub. Yeah, but it's tough for me to really say that there are any snubs anymore in baseball, especially with all the information that fans are privy to and all the information that they're voting on.
Well, last Yankee question, second to last question, penultimate. I'll use the big word because Chris doesn't understand them.
Correct.
Question of this interview here. We know that the one area of concern for the Yankees, and it's not really going to rear its ugly head in the regular season, but they need somebody to go out there and be able to take the ball in a postseason series. Back up Tanaka and Paxton. Be that guy, because you really can't count on Severino, and every day that goes by you are less and less confident that you'll actually see Severino this year. Where are the Yankees going for pitching help? You hear they might not like Madison Bumgarner as much as the fans do. Marcus Stroman is a guy that I personally don't really trust, despite him having a really good year. It was always a pipe dream to get Max Scherzer, and now that the Washington Nationals have gotten themselves to the top of the NL wild card, the Nats are not going to be in seller's mode. Where are the Yankees going? And you hear, like any other rental, everybody wants to trade Clint Frazier, but you hear reports that Cashman's not in love with trading Frazier for a rental. So where are the Yankees going to get starting pitching help? Or are they going to just say, screw it, maybe we don't get starting pitching help and we'll just continue to load into this bullpen here? Because you see guys like Ottavino and Britton and Chapman are maybe a little bit tired right now, and to give them some help out there.
If Chris is still throwing the wiffle ball to his kids, then maybe the Cashman can give him a call and see, see what's happening there.
I think
his arms are.
I think the Yankees need both, to be honest, bullpen and starting pitching. I'm a lefty. I can still go out there and chuck a few.
The day you take them out for the Yankees is the day I stop watching Major League Baseball.
Guy, it's such a difficult question. It really is, because
that's why we have you.
Are the
here
Yankees
going to
get?
Right.
I know. I try. Here's the thing: are the Yankees in recent years? We've seen them get cute, right? Sonny Gray. A lot of people thought he had number one type stuff, or he could be a number one type. That didn't work out. Last year, you go out and get J. Happ, who was very good for them, and then he gets bombed in the playoffs by the Red Sox, who was the one team that he was supposed to stop. They get Jaime Garcia, who obviously didn't work out.
Why would you ever say that? Why would you bring that up?
I'm sorry, but
actually, you know what? I actually forgot he was a New York Yankee, and you had to go and put that back in my brain.
These are things that it just proves my point, guys, that I think that the Yankees, especially Brian Cashman, they love these reclamation projects. I think that they love these guys who they view as solid arms who maybe have a lot of upside. And you've seen it with Aaron Hicks. You've seen it with other players that, maybe other teams aren't as high on, that maybe the Yankees can try and fix. But I think that this year that all has to go out the window, right? And I don't want to hear about the Yankees talking about Matthew Boyd or Mike Minor. Like,
I'm not touching Matthew Boyd. I'm sorry.
They're having very good seasons. But if you're serious about wanting to win a championship this year and to put yourself in position to maybe win next year, then you give the Nationals a package that's so good. You put an offer on the table that's so good that they have to think about it.
But that's going to start with Gleyber Torres, and they're not going to do that.
I don't think it has to. I really don't, because Mike Rizzo has said in interviews in the past that, it has to be a good offer. It has to be a franchise-altering offer. But I think that if you put together a package of 5 guys, that they would seriously consider it. And it's got to be Clint Frazier, Thairo Estrada, Estevan Florial, and you give them Domingo Acevedo, who's very, very high on a lot of people's prospect lists. A lot of people like him. They think he's a future number 1 starter. And you give him Chance Adams just as a sweetener. And I think that
Joe,
if you put that offer on the table,
Brian Cashman could get that deal, he would walk from the Bronx to Wildwood, New Jersey naked.
Listen,
okay, that's how excited he would be to get that deal done.
I really think that, honestly, it would make a lot of sense for both sides. I understand that, maybe it doesn't seem like enough, but when you're essentially helping them replenish their farm system with 3 guys. And
take Greg Bird too, please.
Screw it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you give them, because those are all guys that really don't have a part in your future.
And that's not even me being facetious and saying take our trash, but if Greg Bird can stay healthy, I still believe that he can be a productive Major League Baseball player, but his time is past here in the Bronx. So, send him somewhere as a 5th or 6th piece in a trade like that.
This is why I said, guys, I really think that there are packages to be had. I know that everybody talks about Gleyber and Judge, which I think is crazy to me, because Gleyber is your starting second baseman, right? I mean, you're not moving any starting pieces right now to get an arm. It just doesn't make sense. It's a counterproductive move. And the same thing with Aaron Judge, which we won't even talk about because that's so ridiculous that I can't even wrap my head around it. But yeah, honestly, if you call Washington and you say, we'll give you 5 guys right now for Max Scherzer, then I think they would have to at least think about it, because Scherzer's going to have 10-5 rights next year. And if the Nationals get off to another bad start with a division that's probably going to keep getting better around them, then they're going to have to think about it, because the offers that they get next year aren't going to be what they're going to get this year. So I think that, listen, I know it doesn't sound like a sexy package, but Clint Frazier is he could be an everyday starting. We've seen he has the offense to be an everyday starting outfielder in this league. Domingo Acevedo, everybody loves him, and he's going to be a top of the rotation type guy. Chance Adams was a once promising arm. Estevan Florial is a guy that he's still a few years away, but all you hear is hype surrounding him. And Thairo Estrada, we've seen he's very good. He can hit at the major league level. So I don't think it's too ridiculous. I really don't. I know that they're going to talk about Gleyber. They're going to talk about Judge. But I think that if you give them a franchise-altering trade that gives them at least 2 starting pieces who could be starting next year for them, and 3 more pieces who, with a little bit more marinating in the minor leagues, who could become big players for them in the future, I think that that's something they would seriously consider.
Yeah, but Joe, here's the issue. And as much as we don't want to admit it, justifying things to your fans does go a long way when it comes to making these moves. How do you justify to your fans that you're getting rid of the one guy who's been probably the best pitcher in baseball over the last handful of years when you're this much in the race? And another thing for me, the one thing that if the Nationals are sitting down and saying, okay, we're in this race, what would be the best takeaway from getting rid of Scherzer? To me, that would be getting that money off my books at that point. And if the Nationals are going to expect the Yankees to take all that money, you think Brian Cashman's going to say, okay, yeah, we'll take all the money and we're also going to send you 5 to 6 prospects? I just don't see that happening.
Again, guys, this is the thing, and this is where the prospect hugging comes in, because I understand the Yankees have really wanted to put a premium on rebuilding the farm system, right? And
yeah,
that's
but
totally
Joe,
fair, and we've seen what they've done with it.
Joe, take all the prospects you want at this point. I don't care about prospects anymore. You take all the prospects you want. I'm talking now at this point, that's what the Nationals are going to want, but they're also going to want money, and I don't think Cashman's going to give up both.
Well, you know what? This is, again, guys, and this is the New York Yankees we're talking about, right? I mean, these are the kind of moves that, and I hate to bring this up, I really do, because these are the kinds of fans that really bug me on Twitter. But this is a move that if George Steinbrenner were alive today, he'd say, take our entire farm system, take all 5 levels.
He would try to annex. He would actually try to annex Tampa, where they have the minor league facility.
Absolutely. Steinbrenner would say, if Scherzer is the guy, which I think he is, and you leave zero doubt that he's going to help you win a world championship this year, and, you don't get cute with the Matthew Boyds and the Mike Miners of the world, or, what have you, these guys who are having really nice years, but they're not going to win you a World Series, or they're not going to put you in the best position to win a World Series. I think that's what you have to do now. Again, is the reality of that situation, is that something that could happen? No. But if I'm Brian Cashman, I can't leave any doubt. If this is the year that you're thinking about winning a world championship, and we know they thought about this last year too, but if this is the year that you're thinking about winning a world championship, then you cannot leave any doubt with your starting rotation. You can't go out there and say, well, we could have had Verlander, but instead we had, Jaime Garcia, or we had Lance Lynn, or we had, Sonny Gray, who didn't work out. Like, you could have had these guys, but instead you had guys that amounted to nothing. So yeah, I don't know what the reality of the situation is. I don't know what Mike Rizzo is thinking. I know that Max Scherzer next year has 10-5 rights. I know that they probably want to get money off the books. I know that they paid Patrick Corbin a whole lot of money to be at the top of that rotation too. So I don't know if he's a guy that they're going to want to move. I doubt it. But if I'm the Yankees, I put that offer on the table and I say, listen, guys, this is what we're giving you. Take it or leave it. And if they say no, then they say no. And then that's all you can do about it.
Hey, and we're not arguing you that Scherzer wouldn't be that guy. I mean, I think out of anyone, I'd be most excited about Scherzer, but I just being someone who has just really dissected each and every move that they've made, I just don't see them coming to some resolution for it. But hopefully I'm wrong. I mean, that would honestly put the Yankees over the top. But getting back to, the AL in general, who do you think right now, and I kind of have a guess at who you're going to say, who do you think is the AL MVP of the first half?
Trey Mancini's had an excellent year for Baltimore. No, I
love Baltimore. What do you follow?
I'm sorry. I got to stop doing it. It's low hanging fruit. It's so easy, but it's Trout, guys. I'm sorry. I understand there's the whole debate of what valuable means to a team, right? And that's the reason they'll never change the MVP award to most outstanding player or best player in baseball, whatever you want it, because there's so much ambiguity that goes into most valuable. What valuable means to a team? Is it the best player? Is it the guy that means the most? I think that if you take Mike Trout out of that lineup for the Angels, what do they have? Justin Upton, who's been, he came back, he's been decent, but where are the Angels? I know they've been hovering up around 500 this year. I know
they're exactly 500 right now.
Yeah. So the Tyler Skaggs news is absolutely devastating for them. Make no mistake. I mean, that's baseball,
not easy to overcome.
Baseball reasons, but that'll be tough for them to deal with the rest of the way. But where are the Angels without Mike Trout? And you look at all of his numbers, his advanced numbers. I mean, he's the best player in baseball. And I think that I know that a lot of Yankee fans want to hear DJ LeMahieu. I do. But again, I think a lot of the stuff, when you look at the runners in scoring position stuff, that's more of a team stat than it is an individual. And there's no doubt that he's absolutely executed in those situations. And it's hard to see any player kind of replicate his success. But at the same time, the only reason he's getting put in those situations is because guys are heading in runners in scoring position for him in the first place. So
yeah, Joe, and you know what?
It's tough.
I agree with you. I mean, I think Trout right now takes the honors of the first half. And here's how I thought of it today, because I was always a guy that was like, you know what? Most valuable to their team. How could this guy be so valuable? and his team's 500. But here's how I look at it now, and tell me if I'm wrong. I look at it now as if when MVP is voted on, you can't even look at the team that they're on. You have to almost treat it as if you're drafting guys from top to bottom, and who put up the best numbers individually that would be the most valuable to a team that you were building. And that's really, in my opinion, the way you got to look at it.
That's the way you have to look at it, guys, because you know this, and I say this a lot. I say this on Twitter. I say this to you guys. Baseball is such a context-dependent sport. It's so hard to look at one number and say, or one statistic and say, well, this is wholly on this guy. No, it's really tough to say. When one thing matters to one guy doesn't mean as much to another guy. So, you put DJ LeMahieu in another lineup that's horrific, then he doesn't have those runners in scoring position numbers. Maybe he still hits 348. Maybe he still hits 350, which is fine. But is he going to have the RBIs to show for it? If you put him in San Francisco, is he going to have the power numbers to show for it? So there's a lot that goes into it. And I think when you just look at the individual and what they do, Trout is he's head and shoulders above everybody, man. I think he's got 2 MVP awards. He should have 4. He should have 8. So he's just been that good throughout his career. And I hope that people recognize that. And they recognize that he is a Hall of Fame player, and what he does is just otherworldly. Even if the Angels are a 500 team, that can't be put on him. Just think about where they would be if it wasn't for him.
Okay, Joe, this is your anti-Yankee bias showing through now. We all know that DJ LeMahieu is the friggin' MVP of the American League.
No, Joe, honestly.
If you want to give it to, I understand. Mike Trout's the best player not only on this planet, but any planet that you can find in the solar system. But I think that people that just want to throw DJ LeMahieu's name right in the trash, that they're wrong, that he at least deserves to be in the conversation this year.
Yeah, I will agree with you guys. I do think that he does. He's had such a great year. He's had an excellent year. He's proven the Coors narrative wrong, right? And I think that was the biggest thing for them. And he does deserve to be in that conversation. But when you look at just what one guy means to a team, what one guy does to opposing pitching on a day in and day out basis, I mean, it's Trout. It really is. I think that LeMahieu, for how good he's been, how eye-opening good he's been, at the same time, I just don't think if you're telling me to draft one guy right now to be based on what they're doing this year, it's Trout. And I thought
it would be Chris Davis, Joe. I don't think it's as close. No, not Chris Davis, especially not for that money, man. I mean, you know how I feel about the Orioles, but that's where you draw the line.
Tough for me to put. Yeah, that's tough for me. Chris Davis is going to be that's a non-starter for me.
All right, Joe, we can't thank you enough, man. You're always generous with your time with us, and we thank you very much here as we're approaching the All-Star break. I want to go around the league with you, touch base on a few different things. You can follow Joe on Twitter at Joe Rivera SN. He is one of the top 14 follows on Twitter. Okay, so if you're not following him,
top 14, wow.
Top 14. So if you're not following him, you're not doing Twitter right, okay?
Wow.
That's top 14. Wow.
Yeah.
Right at number 14. That's fantastic. Love it.
I didn't say we're in the top 14.
Who's better than you?
Whenever someone says
who's better than you guys,
whenever someone throws a number like 14 out there and says top 14, he's putting you at 14. So
yeah, I mean,
you could have said top 20.
There's a reason there.
Joe
top 20, I would have been fine with it.
Like when Gary Sanchez has a big day, and then Joe slams the Gary Sanchez hater, he jumps.
Right, jumps up.
Yeah, he
jumps
does.
Up the list.
I mean. That's another, I just, to get on my soapbox for a second, I just hope that, and I know that it's not, but I hope that everybody that wanted Sanchez traded last year can go fly a kite, to put it kindly, because.
What did Aaron Boone say? Kick rocks?
Kick rocks. That's our new, that's the new saying.
That truly was a highlight moment in covering press conferences. I was looking down at my phone at the time, getting ready to tweet, and then he said kick rocks, and it was like my world was turned upside down. So, yeah, I really do. Again, and Sanchez is proving why you don't give up on talent. He had a bad year last year. He was hurt. He was playing hurt. He couldn't work out because he was hurt. So, maybe if you saw the little extra weight, then, you got to realize you try running on a treadmill with a sprained ankle, or you try lifting weights with a bum shoulder. So, I hope that just to put a nice bow on it, I hope that everybody that wanted Sanchez traded last year, I hope that Gary Sanchez wears his Players Weekend jersey, says fat and lazy on the back. Just to stick it to everybody.
I'll buy one
just
and I'll send you one too.
I love it.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's always great.
Thanks,
all right, Joe. Take care.
Appreciate it. Good old Joe Rivera.
You know what? You can say a lot of things about Joe Rivera. He's a Baltimore Orioles fan. But
is he an Orioles fan?
No, it's just busting.
I didn't think so.
But you gotta from the bottom of our hearts, and we're gonna say this after he's gone, so he can't hear it. We thank Joe because he, like I said, while he was on with us, he's very generous with his time. Chris is never ready on time, so it's always 20 minutes to a half hour later than when we tell Joe, and he never shortchanges us. He's great, and we love Joe. He's got great insight, not only with the Yankees, but he covers a lot of Major League Baseball for the sporting news. So can't thank Joe enough. He's one of our favorite guests. So follow him on Twitter. He is a good follow. Give him a follow at Joe Rivera SN. So there you go.
It's a little difficult for us to close out the show right now because David Hale's pitching currently, and what's our runner on second here with one out?
Yes.
Bottom of the ninth of a tied game, so we're kind of holding our breath. But
you know what? It just goes to show you that he went to Cortez in the seventh, and now Hale he wants to stay away from the big guys.
Yeah,
tonight.
He's gotta.
That Boone wants to stay away from the big guys tonight, and you know what? When you gotta, what is their lead in the loss column right now? 9. When you got a 9-game lead in the loss column a couple days before the All-Star break.
You can afford those things. You can.
So as we look ahead here, the Yankees are trying to get this into extra innings. Then they'll play 2 against the Rays to wrap up the first half of the regular season here. It'll be CC versus Blake Snell, who looks like the creepiest person in the history of the world.
With the mustache?
Oh, my God.
It's got to go.
The goatee there in his promo photo. And then it's Paxton versus Charlie Morton, a nice little pitching matchup on Sunday before the All-Star break. So Chris and Ryan who decided that he was going to take today off,
Just you want to know why? Because we gave him his praise last week or a couple of weeks ago that he's always here. So he felt it was time to take a little break. But me and him will be back on Sunday recording later after the game. Yeah, so this will be the last few. Well, the fellas will give me a buzz. I'll hop on for a couple minutes and be a complete asshole to you. That sounds good.
All right. So we'll, Chris and Ryan will handle the bulk of the show on Sunday. Hopefully we got at least a split out of this Tampa series, which is really all the Yankees. And Urshela had a bad hop, but he'll get the out at first there to hold the runner at second. So that's really all the Yankees need out of this series is a split, and it'll keep it at 8 games heading into the All-Star break, which, man, if you were going to tell me at the beginning of the year when the Yankees were just disintegrating like Thanos snap, Chris won't get it, but some of you will, and you're going to tell me at the All-Star break to have an 8-game...
Never believed you.
Never believed you. So absolutely a phenomenal job by the Yankees and Brian, not only Brian Cashman for getting this team depth, but Aaron Boone for keeping them afloat here. So, so we'll hear from Chris and Ryan. They'll do episode 133 together on Sunday, and then the show will take a break for the All-Star break, and then we'll be back to wrap up the Toronto series, the first series back from the All-Star break. So there you go. So thank you for listening to episode 132, right? This
132.
132 of the NYYST Podcast. Stay tuned after we wrap up for a word from our sponsors, Baseballism. Go to baseballism.com. Use Chase28 for free shipping. Follow them on Twitter at Baseballism. Follow us on Twitter at NYY Sports Talk. Vacant chair. Chris, say goodbye.
Within a game, a bond is made. He teaches his boy a game he played. 2 gloves, 1 ball, a day at the park, and the 2 play catch until it gets dark. And his boy does better than he thought he would. So the 2 played catch as long as they could. The boy and his friends, they play in the streets, tennis shoes and cans, no bases, no cleats. They hit home runs and they turn double plays. 1 great catch, and he's Willie Mays. But the sun starts to set in the old neighborhood, and they played in the streets as long as they could. The boy goes to school and plays for his team. He develops his craft and follows his dream. He has moments of glory, he has moments of shame, but they shape his life and they make his name. But he begins to get old, and it's understood. The boy played the game as long as he could. The boy, now a man, he has a son of his own, and he teaches his son a game he was shown. His son's first game, he sits in the stands. He yells out instruction, but it's not in his hands. And being late for the meeting was not in the plans, but a cheer for his son as long as he can. This is America's brand. This is baseballism. Do you believe in baseball?